Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Recently I have been working on a task which you can probably guess what it is based on what I am doing in the background here, but I have been getting rather unlucky and therefore the next TaskSpoon episode is probably going to have to be delayed a little bit, and I thought it would be fun to put out a little video in between now and then and do a little Q&A/AMA type video. So I asked people on my Discord to send me questions to answer about me or the videos or the series or YouTube or just anything in general really, and hopefully this will give you a little bit of content in between now and then because I have no idea how long this is going to take me. So yeah, here we go. Jack Stoumert asked, I got a question about you specifically. What do you do outside of YouTube and how are you enjoying it? Also, love the vids and I'm enjoying the channel growth. Thank you. So I'm actually going to answer the second part of that question first. How are you enjoying it? Assuming it means making YouTube videos. I've always loved playing old school RuneScape and I've always loved making content. So combining the two really was a no-brainer and I'm absolutely loving it. I'm very happy that one day I just sort of decided that this would be a fun thing to do and actually stuck with it, even though for the first little while I had no idea what I was doing in terms of both editing and what I was going to do with the series, and honestly didn't find that much success with the videos to start, but I'm very happy that I decided to stick with it, so yeah. As far as what I do outside of YouTube, I still like to play other games. For a while there, I was still raiding in World of Warcraft. I was part of a fairly high-rated World of Warcraft guild, and I like to play Diablo 4 and whatnot, but recently I really just don't have the time to do much else in terms of video games. Whenever I have time, I'm usually playing RuneScape, trying to get clips recorded. So yeah, as far as that goes, not too much. In terms of real-life stuff, I actually both play and teach pickleball. I know that a lot of people probably consider that an old person game, but I am one of the highest rated players in my city, and I do play, and I do lessons, and I do tournaments, and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much all I do is play pickleball and play video games. So yeah, that's me. Jolteon had a few questions here that I'll go over one at a time. The first thing he said was, who's your biggest inspiration in-game? I don't think I have an in-game inspiration necessarily, but I do have a few inspirations for the YouTube content side of things. There are a few creators that I have always enjoyed their content and like to take inspiration from and mix in aspects of their videos into my own. Obviously, a lot of people probably already know that Settled, kind of the first person to do the big region-locked series. I've always loved the Swampletic series and pretty much everything he's ever done, so that's always been a big inspiration. The other two big influences I would say would be Jimmy with his by-release series. I love the way that he's able to weave in so much comedy and humor into a rather lore-based series, which usually I don't care about lore in RuneScape like at all, but he manages to point out all of the fun and interesting things that make RuneScape what it is, as well as just amazingly high production value with the extra songs that he includes and whatnot. So that's always been a big influence for me. And lastly, I would probably say Solo Mission. I started watching him in the last leagues, the Shattered Relics leagues, when he was kind of going crazy. I think he ended up number 3 in terms of league points. And ever since then, I've been watching his videos, and he just has such big ideas that are always very impressive to me. Even if I were to come up with one of the ideas that he did, I would probably find it way too daunting and intimidating to actually do it, and he just goes and does it, and he does it really well. So yeah, those would be the three that I would say. His next question was, what are your long-term life ambitions? And I honestly wish I had an answer for you, but I really don't know. Recently, I've made a few changes to help both my physical and mental health, and I'm really enjoying where I'm at in life. Playing pickleball and playing RuneScape are two of the things that I love the most, and I'm making money doing both of them, which is a great spot to be in. So if I can just continue that and see where it takes me, then I think that's my current plan, but I really have no idea, so yeah. And lastly, he asked, what content are you looking forward to most in the Elite tier? Definitely raids. I think raids have some of the most interesting drops as well as bosses and game mechanics that I've never really done that much. I did a little bit on leagues, but with League Relics it was kind of a joke, so I'm excited to get into raids and actually learn all the mechanics and hopefully get a few shiny new items while we're there. Next question we got here, best and worst grind so far. The worst grind by far, Malediction Shard. Everything culminated into just the worst experience possible. The 5 times the drop rate is already bad enough, but being in the wilderness, so I have to be constantly paying attention, making sure I wasn't being attacked. Prayer flicking, because I didn't have very many prayer potions and I didn't want to waste them. Having to use an Iban staff, so I need to go back to the underground pass and recharge it every other trip. Just everything was just the worst it could possibly be. So that's a no-brainer. Best grind so far is kind of hard to say. I've been spooned a lot recently, so there's lots of really cool items. But honestly, I think the coolest one was probably the 21 or whatever it was Clue Ranger Boots. Knowing that I would never need to grind medium clues to get Ranger Boots was just such a relief. After watching, I don't know if anyone was familiar with Bodhi's very old series where he ended up doing like 1,000 clues to get Ranger Boots only to die and have to restart. Just knowing that I got them out of the way right away and having essentially, I was going to say the best in slot, but almost the best in slot range boots for the entire account was just such a relief. So I'm going to say those two, but the best grind one, you could come up with a different answer. That's just the first thing that came to the top of my head. The worst grind, 100% the Malediction Shard, no question. And as far as his last question goes, favorite band/song. I don't really have a favorite band or song necessarily. My music choice kind of varies depending on what mood I'm in, and I'll listen to pretty much anything that isn't country music. But if I had to pick a favorite artist, probably Post Malone, maybe? And favorite song, currently I would say probably Deathbed, Coffee for Your Head is the name of the song. So, yeah. Chikara here sent me a bunch of questions, but a lot of them I've already answered in one way or another through answering other questions, so I'm just going to pick out a few in here that I haven't answered yet. One of the things they asked in there was, which grind are you most afraid of? And it's kind of an interesting question because I wouldn't necessarily say that I am afraid of any grind, but the one that I'm dreading rolling the most, limiting myself to the hard tier because that's the tier that I'm currently in, I would have to say is the Dragon Warhammer. 1 in 5,000 drop rate on a fairly difficult to farm enemy is a little bit daunting. Like I said, I wouldn't say that I'm afraid, but I am dreading it a little bit, although it will be a very nice unlock for the account. So everything has a trade-off. Usually the hardest items to get are usually the ones that end up being the most useful. So yeah, I would say Dragon Warhammer. Another question he asked in there was, how do you prevent burnout? Which I think is a big topic in the world of old school RuneScape, considering just how long things take sometimes. People complain about burnout all the time. I don't really know. I definitely do feel burnout eventually, but I think my tolerance for how long I'm willing to do something is a lot higher than most people. For instance, a lot of people will always complain about certain skills. I'm going to take agility as a good example as being boring and tedious, whereas I don't mind just sort of clicking laps passively. So I think just like psychologically, my brain doesn't burn out as easily as other people. That's not to say it doesn't at all, because it definitely does. But usually when that happens, I try to pivot to something that is still useful towards what I'm sort of trying to do without being the exact same thing that I'm sort of dreading doing. So I think a good example was recently for my farming and herblore episodes that I had in the middle there, where technically my task was to do Slayer, and specifically Abyssal Sire, and I just wasn't really feeling it at the time. And so instead of just forcing myself to do something that I really wasn't enjoying, because of what I had available to me, I decided to pivot to unlocking some more useful things. Specifically, in this case, it was the pool in my house, so I did a bunch of days of just collecting secondaries, and farming, and herblore, and etc., which, again, in my opinion, was still related to my task and something that I was allowed to do, but it gave my brain something else to think about for a while, so by the time I actually went back to Sire, the rest of the Sire task went by really quickly, and I didn't feel any burnout at all. So I guess that's what I would say. I don't know if that exactly answered the question, but yeah. Chikara had a couple more questions here where he asked, are you a full-time content creator, and how do you manage to put so much time into your account? Which I think I can answer both of those questions by answering this next question from DabsIM, where he said, maybe go over your daily routine, morning, midday, night, or something. So yeah, let's do that. So I usually wake up around 9 to 9:30 in the morning, somewhere in there, and I lay in bed on my phone for half an hour like most people before I muster the willpower to actually get out of bed. And once I do that, I get right on my computer, and if it is an editing day, then I'll do that. If not, I'll just continue working on whatever task I have. If it's an editing day, I'll usually try and find something AFK to do, hopefully related to my task in some way. For example, if I have a construction task, then I'll choose to chop teak logs or something. And if I can't find anything AFK to do that's related to my task, then I'll just fish cramwams or something, just so that I am at least doing something productive in the game, restocking supplies or whatever while I do my editing. But if not, I'll just play the game and continue doing whatever my task is. I usually have either a lesson or a session planned to play or teach pickleball every day, so I will either edit or play RuneScape until my lesson or session is planned. That's usually around 1 p.m.-ish, and the lessons are usually 2, maybe 4 hours if I have 2 back-to-back. The sessions are usually 3 hours, so usually out from 1 to 6-ish if I had to guess. Then on my way home, I will get breakfast, and I know that sounds insane, eating breakfast at 6 p.m., but my body really doesn't get hungry in the mornings that much, so I usually eat later. So I will get breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever you want to call it, on the way home. I'll also usually try and plan my rendering and uploading videos around while I'm out. That way my computer and internet power isn't being taken up by rendering and uploading videos while I'm trying to play. So usually before I leave, I'll start the render on my video, and then once I get home as I'm eating, I'll start the upload on my video. That way I can just sit back and relax and eat my food. I'll watch something, and then once the upload's done, I will finish doing all of the other things that I need to upload the video, like setting the description and tags and thumbnail and all that stuff. And then I'll just get right back to playing. That usually happens around 7-ish p.m. And I'll generally just play RuneScape like all night. Sounds kind of sad now that I'm saying it out loud. But that's one of the reasons that I think a lot of people always say, like, how do you manage to do so much and put out so many videos? I'm just constantly, I'm trying to like optimize my ability to make content. So I'm always trying to either be rendering, uploading, editing, or playing the game. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll get home, eat my food, and play the game until I go to bed, which is usually around 1 a.m., sometimes later, sometimes earlier, depending on how I'm feeling. But yeah, that's pretty much my day, and then I repeat the next day. Dan B had a few questions here. Some of them I've already answered, but specifically he asked, who do you watch on YouTube, RuneScape and non-RuneScape related, and any channels you would recommend? Now, I would say about half the videos that I end up watching on YouTube are old school RuneScape related. I've been watching old school RuneScape videos for a very long time, and I mentioned a few creators before that I specifically take inspiration from. Now, I'm not saying that these people aren't worth taking inspiration from, but a lot of these other people I'm about to name are just people that I like to just watch for entertainment value. So people like Bodhi, or Framed, or Torvesta. Specifically, one series that I think has done really well, that when I first started watching, his channel actually had about the same number of subscribers that I have right now, and has absolutely blown up recently, and he deserves the world because his series is amazing, and he puts so much time into each episode. If you haven't seen it, Jeoparite's Northern UIM series is absolutely incredible, and that is a channel I would recommend watching. As far as non-RuneScape related videos go, I have a pretty wide range of things that I like to watch. I like golf, so I like watching golf videos, specifically fun videos and not like boring golf videos. So I would watch Bob Does Sports and Good Good, to name a few. I like criminal psychology is something that interests me, so a couple good channels there. Explore With Us and JCS Psychology, both very good channels if you're interested in that. And if I'm just looking to put something on my other monitor to make some noise and make me laugh, I usually just put on a random Northern Line video. Part of the reason I find him funny is because we live in the same city, so a lot of his bits about where he lives are very relatable to me. But yeah, those are sort of the other channels that I watch. Kyle B wanted to ask, can I please have your children? No. Teaspoon wanted to ask, why are 60% of your viewers still not subscribed to your channel? I don't know, that's such a good question. We should fix that. It's such a dumb bit. After going back and watching the clips that I've already recorded, I realized I never really answered the beginning part of Dan's question, so what was your inspiration or reason for starting YouTube? There were sort of two main reasons. The first is I just wanted to get more comfortable with video editing. I really didn't have that much practice. Prior to this, the only thing I really uploaded to YouTube was compilation videos of my streams, and it wasn't really the same thing. I was just sort of putting the clips that I already had downloaded together and then rendering them as one video, and I just started wanting to get used to and get more comfortable with my video editing software. And the other reason, I was sort of feeling the itch to play old school RuneScape again, and when I logged back into my main, I really didn't know what I was doing, like in terms of what my objectives were when I stopped playing and what to start with. And so I was thinking about starting a new Iron Man, and it just sort of came to me one day where I was like, why don't I start a new account and make a series about it? And then I, had to decide on what I wanted to do, where I ultimately ended up with the whole task thing. But yeah, I just sort of wanted to practice video editing and wanted to play RuneScape, and the two kind of fit together really nicely. Pebbles had a couple questions here. Why not live stream? A lot of OSRS content creators do it and used to, so I'm curious. I plan on live streaming in the future. Right now, I just have to get up and down from my computer so much that it would interrupt the stream a lot, and I don't think that would be a very good viewing experience. So once I have a bit more time for longer play sessions, I think I would be more inclined to get back to live streaming, but it's definitely something that I'm interested in and plan to do in the future, and there's always a link to my Twitch in the description if you want to follow me, and then you'll know when I do go live. Pebbles' other question was, do other area-restricted account types interest you? Tileman, Group Iron Man, etc.? Not specifically either of those two necessarily, but I do have plans for another series in the future. Probably when the videos end up taking too long in between on the task series, specifically probably in the elite tier. I do plan on starting another series, but I'll leave that one a surprise for the future. And lastly, Pimp Slap asked, did you play RS3 and what made you stop playing it? I did play RS3, but after the evolution of combat, I just wasn't really as interested in the combat of the game. I already was playing World of Warcraft at the time, and if I wanted to actually press buttons while I did combat, I would just play WoW, and so I preferred the more AFK style of combat. Not to mention just the whole game, all of the changes. It just wasn't really what I was feeling. It wasn't the reason that I was playing the game to begin with, and then when Old School came out, it was just exactly what I was looking for, so I just jumped back into Old School RuneScape. Don't really have any interest in playing RS3 in the future, just not really the game that I'm looking for. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you had a question that didn't get answered that you would like to see in a future video, I would definitely be open to doing another one of these, so you can leave your questions in the comments, and then I'll use those for the next ones as well. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one. TaskSpoon episode 88 will be out in the next couple days, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys soon.